I'll get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Jacobsen. I'm a sound artist based here in Omaha, and I'm just going to talk about my recording and sound walk practice today. We might be doing some deep listening exercises, so free to comment in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we'll just kind of pick apart those as needed. And I'll just try to answer any questions as we go along. So a quick background story. Right from an early age, I was very interested in sound collaging, making weird sounds. Um, I started making sound collages in high school with just audio files that I would find from LimeWire, which, if you guys don't know what LimeWire is, it was like the middle ground between Napster and Pirate Bay. You would just download files illegally, and then I would just take those and chop them up. And then I would also rip things from YouTube. So taking like audio clips from like Mari or Jerry Springer, and then chopping those with like Lady Gaga and just making weird sounds with that. And a big key in that was this cheap laptop that my dad let me borrow, and it was not made for audio editing. It was very cheap. So when I would cut these up and play them back, there would be a lot of glitching, a lot of distortion, dropouts. So from an early age, I was already kind of getting familiar with those sounds. And without having any formal background in audio engineering, those sounds became very normal for me. Um, so that degradation and glitch is very like a part of my work. Um, I went to college, studied music business. I worked some random gigs here and there, setting up equipment, mixing at bars, that sort of thing. Um, I ended up interning at a Evergroove studio in Colorado and made some samples for a band Itch.io. And they're a crazy 40-piece just crazy band. They'll dress up in like mariachi outfits. There's a dragon. They go into the audience and sort of very immersive, very spatial type of work. Um, so I did that for my internship. And then after graduation, I decided to start focusing on sound art and doing field recordings and using that as a compositional practice. Um, so my current hardware gear, I like to keep things very portable. I like to just put everything in a backpack and just go out, especially before COVID. I would just go out, record things, go to a coffee shop, edit, and then go home, and that was my day. So my current gear is a Tascam H5, um, and so it's got two inputs. Let me open this really quick for you. It's got two inputs for microphones. I guess you can't see those, but there's two microphone inputs in the back. And then this part is just a stereo mic, but it's a capsule, so I can actually take this off and then replace it with other things. So what I really like to do, I like to use this for more spatial, just getting like a location, a general idea of a space. But if I want to record something really specific, I'll use this guy, which is called a hyperdirectional microphone or a shotgun mic. And this, let me take the windscreen off. This is really good at just focusing in on one sound. So if I'm like kind of in the middle of downtown Omaha at the old market and I hear those birds, because the birds are always chirping at La Bouvette, I'll just attach this on, pointing at the birds, and then all that traffic noise gets canceled out basically from like here out. And so that's really handy for what I do. And then one more thing, I haven't gotten to use it yet, but I have this new toy, which is a ambisonic microphone. If you notice, if I can put it close enough, there are four speakers on the head. And so this does a 360 recorded diffusion. So I can set this in a space, record the entire soundscape, take it back home, and then track them down, and then break it down into either stereo or what I like to do is diffuse it for 4 channel performances, where there's a speakers on each corner of the room, and then the audience is at the center, and then you can sort of move and make really cool gestural sounds in that space. Um, Outside of the hardware gear, I like using Ableton, which is just a audio DAW. If you're familiar with GarageBand, it's just sort of the step up from GarageBand, similar to Logic or Pro Tools. It's made very much for um, just getting ideas and performing. Is a very much a performance DAW. That's what it's kind of geared for. So I really like using it in live settings. And then another piece of software I like is called Max MSP. And Max MSP is sort of all those DAWs on steroids. It's very much program coding, making little object boxes, taking those, connecting the boxes together, and making crazy sounds out of that. Um, it's very complicated. I am by no means a professional at Max MSP, but it's a lot of fun to work with. Um, yeah, sticking it with portable gear. As far as editing goes, what I like to use when I'm at the coffee shops is just this little Akai MPX. I've had this for almost 10, 15 years now. It's just got some nice keys, some knobs that I can play with, and the like. And then something that I also use that's very fun is this bamboo tablet. And so when I'm on stage, what I'll do is I'll use this and the stylus, and I'll kind of move the sounds around physically within Ableton, and that's where I can get lots of gestures, spatial gestures within the room. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so for this next bit, it's going to take some listening participation. Um, we're going to do a quick little exercise, and I'm getting this off of the book Deep Listening by Pauline Oliveros. If you're interested in working with sound, I highly recommend this book. It changed my life. It changes everyone's lives. 10 out of 10. Go get it. But we're just going to take 2 minutes and just sit and listen to our space where we're at right now. So I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes, and then you'll probably hear an alarm. And I want you guys to hit up in the chat and just tell me what you guys are hearing and what you think. All right, and get nice and comfortable, and go.
Hi, Alex.
Yes.
I don't hear a sound.
No, you're supposed to be just listening.
Oh, okay.
No,
I
yeah,
apologize.
you're fine. Okay, so that was 2 minutes. If you have anything you would like to post, you can post it in the chat. Please do. I highly recommend it. For me, um, there's a lot of dogs barking in my neighborhood. In fact, there's must be like three or four. It sounds like they're all kind of coming in like this direction for me. Um, it wasn't really like an intense. It was kind of a distant like barking. Um, I could hear my refrigerator running. There's a lot of hissing with all these lights that I got going on. Um, Someone posted cars outside, water running through pipes in my neighborhood apartment. Little clicks in my apartment. Yeah, it's amazing how loud our rooms are. Someone else put, I can hear my wife moving upstairs. What kind of, is it like a wood floor moving? Or what kind of steps are those? Heating system rattling. I hear that a lot. Um, a big sound that I've heard also too is the dripping of the snow, floors creaking. Uh huh. Anyone else? One more minute. House settling. House settling. That's an interesting way to putting it. Like it's settling onto like kind of like breathing almost like interesting. Um, and I don't know if you guys could hear my space, but something that's been really interesting during COVID and doing these sort of like deep listening workshops has been hearing the sounds of another space through the speakers into someone else's space. I can't hear your guys' space because you're all muted, but if you guys can hear the dogs barking or the loud hissing or even my voice, there's sort of this weird intermediary conversation between that sound object, the computer, and then the other space. And that's something that I'm kind of interested in my work too. As someone who is walking around with recording gear, it's I get treated like a little differently when they see this thing and me walking down the street. They go, "Oh, is it a gun? Is it you know?" Um, Many times have I been stopped and asked what this is mid recording, and I probably have like 5 or 6 different sound bites of people asking me this and that and all that. Um, so yeah, some things to think about. Um, Next up, so around 2020, pre-COVID, I was collaborating in an art exhibition called Memory Held in You with video artist Allegra Hangen and the dancers Isabella and Gail. Um, this was sort of a interesting uh, foray into sort of like trying to combine my audio work with more visuals work, trying to merge the two. And a big part of that was through memory and trying to get people or trying to get the memories within ourselves sort of evoked within a space, um, which what a philosopher Salome would call a pathetic trigger, as you can read right there. Employ the memories of sound within the listener to create an emotional involvement with the work. So we sort of had this container, um, and then within the container, we had these sort of mementos or things that would possibly trigger a memory within the listener. We're trying to engage the listener in the artwork and create a new experience through multiple shared experiences. That and then of course, lo and behold, COVID hits, and everything kind of got quiet, right? May came around. We all just went into our holes. Not a lot of cars going on. Almost no planes. I had an artist tell me that she drove like what would normally take a day to drive into downtown just to really 30 minutes just to go down and back. I'm hearing getting some funky feedback.
Yes.
All right. Is that through me?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
It happens every time
Does
you
that help at
speak.
all?
Yeah, I thought you were
Oh,
putting effects or something. Oh, someone in the chat just said that too.
yeah. Is it kind of better? I turn the volume down.
It comes on every time you speak, so it could be your mic or something.
Hmm.
Like right now that you're not saying anything, we don't hear it.
Okay. Let me maybe if I add to my voice, we can hurt that. Does that sound a little bit better?
It sounds different, but there's still like some effect to your voice.
Weird. Maybe maybe a Zoom thing.
I doubt that because you're not hearing it when I speak, so I don't think it's a Zoom thing.
Okay. Well, that's what I get for using the mic on my computer. Is it so problematic that it's bothering people?
Yeah.
What
Well, I mean, it
what
doesn't bother me because you sound like a robot, but it's still there.
Okay. Well, I am part robot, so maybe that's not a bad thing. Reflections. Yeah. Maybe just kind of move some things around. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Um, feeding weird. It's Ableton thing. Does that change anything? How's that sound?
It's still the same.
Restart your audio. Okay. Let me try that. And how about that?
Same thing.
Same thing. Oh shoot. Does that change anything?
Much better.
Okay. Well, shoot. Okay. Um, Noted. Will. Okay. All right. Let me just reset where I was. And we're back. Okay. So, COVID 19, May, or no, before May, like beginning of March, April, June, things just started getting quieter, right? And then May hit, and we had the Black Lives Matter protest. Things started getting quite a bit louder. Um, we ended up having to scrape Memory Held in You. We did remix some webisodes of that. We do hope to show more work in the near future, but COVID stopped everything. During COVID, just as a way to like just keep me mentally in check, I just continued to go on walks, record sounds. Um, it was really nice just because there were so few cars and planes. And then as the Black Lives Matter protest started going in full swing, things got louder. And I found these recordings kind of becoming a bit more of a conversation between myself, the recording device, and the city or the location that I was recording in. Um, from my personal experience as a white dude from rural Nebraska, it was all very weird. It was a lot of information coming on Instagram, this and that. The whole experience was just very surreal. And so these recordings became a response to what was going on. Um, so I have another clip it's titled May 2020, because it was recorded in May 2020. Um, Let me reset my audio now so I can share that with you guys.
Let's go, banging! Hey, big, hey, big, hey, big, hey,
People ain't watching the mother three sides.
bitch down. What's it?
At this time, we're going to have Brother Bill. Come on. All power to the people. Just a little bit. First, I want to say for everybody who's here, the game changed from Monday until today, and here's why. On Saturday and on last Monday and any other protest that took place, that was all local people. Now we got the pay that they have now put in place is a result of deploying active military. They will shoot you down as well as look at you. So please, please pay attention to this curfew, but there's some other things we got to do.
All right, can you hear me again?
Yes.
Yes, sweet. All right. So that was kind of I felt like a big turning point. It maybe wasn't like the most perfect recording, it wasn't the best, but it definitely got me from going from just listening to the sounds in and of themselves and moving towards a more conversation between these sounds. Um, and I think something else that really started to like come up in this work, and not to jump around too much, but around the same time that I was doing memory, I was also falling back in love with William S. Burroughs, and who's, in case you don't know William S., he is famous for the cut and paste technique, cutting up text, rearranging them, and then making work from the result. He's famous for the book Naked Lunch and Junkie, and he's also just kind of like a famous like punk rock icon. I think a lot of the punk rock guys like Ramones and Dead Kennedys, along with David Bowie, they're big fans of his work. So he's a cool dude to know. But something that doesn't get talked a lot about his work is the occult and sort of chaos magic um, into his sort of philosophy, creative philosophy. Um, he used the cut and paste technique not only in a creative way, but also as a way to understand himself and in a weird sense predict the future, cast hex, all that sort of thing. And as you can see in the quote, he's famous for saying, when you cut into the past and present, the future leaks out. So something I started to think about when recording these is, what's the consequence of these sounds I'm hearing? What's sort of will be the result of these? And does this lead to a soundscape that I would want to be a part of? It's one thing to like sit in a very tense, emotional soundscape, and it's another to like imagine what the next soundscape will be after you leave that soundscape, or the possible soundscape that you are surrounding yourself with. So the next slide, or the next piece, June and July, was recorded around the time 100 protesters were arrested on Farnham Street, in case anyone remembers that. There was some recordings that I took off Instagram, and throughout those couple months, I was recording sounds, gathering material. The protests happened. I decided to actually walk that path. So I went on the Farnham Street on like 26, and then went all the way to the overpass where they ended up being rounded up and sent to the police station. So you'll hear some of that. You'll hear me just hanging out. There is a little bit of intense sounds from a neighbor of mine. So just, brief trigger warning, be careful of that. But this was sort of guiding with the idea of like, okay, here are the sounds I have now. Where might they lead to?
I'm determining right now for officer safety. I'm a command officer and making that call because I don't want you here.
Laughing from dream in the dream. And my dog was concerned because she thought I was having a stroke. And I'm speaking to her like in Spanish. And saying like, stop, in like a really weird way. And like petting her, she was like shaking. And her heart was racing a lot. But I was like also being shaken and crying her racing. Like, I had to body. And that's like when I woke up.
Like Black Lives Matter, they are gone. There's not too many people like have to deal with it.
White people.
Look, I guess we have to deal with it, but I'm not gonna.
How many white people came on that fucking protest on that street, you stupid ass fuck? There were more majority of white people? Your kind, right? Yeah. Oh wait, no.
That's how dumb they felt when they went to jail, too.
Right? What you got me? You're a fucking asshole. You treat me like shit all fucking night.
So I told the rest of those folks they can stand up there. So feel free to go up there and stand and observe. Otherwise, be on your way. Be on your way. Be on your way. I'm allowing you to stay. I'm telling you where. Just like I do with media.
Calm me down.
Get a backpack. What do you got in the backpack?
microphone. Microphone.
With microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, all right.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. All right, have a good one.
You too, man.
All right, and then I'm not gonna play this next piece, but I after those I did a bunch of other pieces, kind of mostly every month, um, and shoot, you guys can hear me now, right? Just double checking.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I did all throughout those pieces, and then this penultimate piece that I've done, November and December, sort of ended this series, which was done after Jacob Gardner's suicide. And this was also, so Jacob Gardner's suicide happened, then the 2020 election happened. And so I used sounds from online streaming platforms and local radio shows to kind of create this like sense of uprising. Um, and that one, in a sense, I feel is the most William S. Burroughs piece in that it really kind of, to me, it felt like it predicted the Capitol riots that happened at the beginning of January. There's a lot of talk of uprising, of reclaiming what is ours, just the typical white stuff that you've heard all throughout the month. I don't think we really need to talk about it, but yeah. That's basically what I got. Here are a bunch of links that I've given you guys. My website, you can listen to more of my stuff on Bandcamp. You can also follow me on Instagram. And then as far as the books that we talked about, there's Deep Listening by Pauline. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Listening to Noise and Silence by Salome. Really like this book. And then another book that I'm reading that I'm having a lot of fun with that connects to sort of the themes we've been talking about is The Political Possibility of Sound, also by Salome. So all these three books definitely are fun, definitely worth getting. And yeah, I'm happy to open up to questions if you guys are ready for questions. Or if there's something else you guys want to talk about, I could do some. He's doing a great job. Thank you, Bob. If there's anything you guys want to see as far as Ableton, you can also let me know in the chat. I'd be happy to like go over a quick tutorial with you guys. Quick. Do Space is asking, what is the impact of social media on your creative practice and sense of community in the arts? What is the impact of social media on your creative practice? So social media acting onto my creative practice? It stresses me out, to be honest. I try to stay away from social media when I can. Although, like I said, with the June and July recordings, I took those sounds from social media and then put them back in. And same with November and December. Those sounds from like the streaming services, they were like YouTube. I think it's like from the Right Side podcast or something, taking those sounds, bringing them in, and sort of morphing those. So there's, in that sense, it's like working with a virtual space and gathering the sounds, downloading them, and then playing with them on there. Hey, thanks, Jessica. Thanks for joining. Um, got an Ableton recommendation. So yeah, I could do a quick Ableton thing really quick. Um, it'll be a bit weird because I don't. You guys just may not hear me, so we might have to jump back and forth with that. But we'll make it work. All right, so right here, I have my Ableton template and some stuff. I guess I'll just go over a couple effects that I like to use. I'm a big fan of what's called a granular synthesis. And what it does is you just drag a file in, it chops up, it kind of resamples the sound, and then you can play it back going at different rates. So right now I have a face covering sound that I got from the Metro buses. And if we can, I might even see if I can find it on here. No, it's not there, but I'll play it through here. And so it gets some like pretty cool sounds, some interesting little granular snippets of stuff. Like I said, I can't hear what's being played right now, but that's a very fun effect that I use, and it's really easy to like get the samples to split and chop up and then rearrange to form new sounds. Another question: how do you implement consent when picking up other conversations? Is this something that you've come across? It is something that I've come across before. If I'm able to get a consent notification or have them sort of just write down or even get like a text message from them, I can do that. But sometimes it's a little dangerous and I can't do that and I won't do that. The way I get past that is I just don't monetize certain pieces if I didn't get consent, and that way it's just free source. Anyone can get it. Um, so that's what I do. Hmm. Any other questions from anyone? If I want to monetize, then it has to be a consent agreement, have them write it on paper. When I started, I had like a sheets that I would have people sign, but with COVID, I'm not near anybody, so it's not usually a problem. Space asks success and challenges in finding support for your creative work. Like I said, I started out in Sydney, Nebraska, way out west over on the panhandle side of the state. And this isn't something that people really do. It's very traditional. You know, you have a lot of people who want classical music, who want sort of just like really easy jazz stuff. No one's trying to expand the idea of music in any way. And even in college, academic music is very conservative. It's very white, Eurocentric, all those buzzwords. So even in college, it was hard to have people who wanted to sit down and listen to my work and enjoy it. It was always like, oh, this is weird. You're weird. That said, moving to Lincoln, there was a nice scene. I kind of fell in with a lot of like really good people, especially like this poetry scene there. And now that I'm in Omaha, Omaha has a lot of resources like Amplify Arts and the Bemis where I can intern, I can collaborate with artists. Overall, like for all the things that I can complain about Omaha's art scene. There's a lot of very positive people and a lot of people doing a lot of cool things. And yeah. Oh, and I guess that adds to the monetization. Grant writing helps a lot. Getting that grant money has come in very handy. All right. Maybe one or two more questions and then we'll call it a day. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. If no one has any questions, I have something that I always like to do at the end of lectures. We're just going to go back into like a nice listening state, and I'm going to read off some questions again from Salome's Deep Listening. Salome, Deep Listening. Or no, not Salome, sorry. Pauline Oliveros, Deep Listening. Order now at your local bookstore. I'll just go nice and slow, and if you have something to write this down on, go ahead and do that. If not, just sort of like think of these questions now, throughout the rest of the week, just kind of on your own time. First question. What is your earliest memory of sound? How do you feel about it now? When do you notice your breath? What sounds remind you of home? The distinguished historian William H. McNeill has recently argued in his book, Keeping Together in Time, that coordinated rhythmical activity is fundamental to life and society. Can you imagine tracking a rhythm pattern in your daily life and writing about it? What is sound? What is listening? When do you feel sound in your body? What are you hearing right now? How is it changing? How many sounds can you hear all at once? How far away can you hear sounds? What is the soundscape of your city? What sound gives you chills? What sound changes your breathing? And last question, what sound would you like whispered in your ear? All right, and that's all the time I got for you today, guys. So thanks for joining in, and keep following the Do Space stuff. They're doing a lot of cool things, and hopefully I'll be back. All right.